All righty. Here we go, man.
Oh boy.
Trade deadline day, and it was wild. I'll tell you that. So 17 minutes ago, trade deadline passed, and usually for the next like half hour after the actual deadline passes, that's when all the reports start settling in, and then after about 6:30, it's really over. So we might still get some stuff in the next few minutes or so.
Yeah, one just coming through right now is Mike Yastrzemski to the Orioles.
Wow, Mike Yastrzemski got traded. That's wild. I thought he was going to be a Giant forever. That's really interesting. So listen, man, there's like I said, there's plenty to talk about, and I mean it this time. I mean, this is not like one of those, where we got to kind of muster up topics or anything like that. But it's been a wild day, Dalton. It's been a really, really wild day.
Yeah. I feel like we're still going to be picking up the pieces through this show. And for the audience, don't expect us to have fully fleshed out takes on everything that's happened here, but we're going to do our best to break down what we've seen. Obviously, news is still breaking now. The Giants apparently going into fire sale mode at the last minute. The Twins, I don't know who's left on their major league roster. I don't know who's left on the minor league rosters for the Padres. A lot to get to, Mike. I mean, I guess we'll just kind of run through it team by team, give some of our thoughts, report new information as we get it, correct each other as we get things wrong.
Yeah. So just because I have it in front of me, because obviously I'm a fan of the team. I've been kind of following them all day. Let me just hold on. This is not, again, if you haven't figured it out, this is a very like spur of the moment kind of deal here. So it's not like I'm overly prepared. Anyway, okay, so I want to start out with the Yankees just because, screw everybody else. That's my team, and I want to talk about them first. So, and I run this damn show, so here we go. So they came away with, I think, and they made a couple of buzzer beater deals towards the end in the last 10 minutes. But boy, oh boy, did they fortify that bullpen. Big time did they fortify that bullpen. So earlier on, they got Ryan McMahon, Ahmed Rosario. That happened last week. And then added Austin Slater yesterday. So they've got two bats now that kill lefties with Rosario and Slater. And then they went full bore on bullpen today. They got David Bednar and Jake Bird pretty much back-to-back a couple hours ago. Jose Caballero, who's just switching dugouts, by the way, at the moment, while the Rays are playing the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. Just sort of like a depth infielder, base stealer, that kind of player. And then at the buzzer, they go get Camilo Doval from the Giants. I mean, the Yankees... Now, I'll say this. It's hard to be disappointed after a deadline like that. Would I have liked to see them get a starter? Yes. But I think reality is here, Dalton, is that a lot of the starters that we expected to get traded stayed put, right? Zach Gallen stayed put. Sandy Alcantara stayed put. Like a lot of these bigger guys stayed where they were. It seemed like the price for starting pitching was pretty high. So anyway, the Yankees, I don't know. It's kind of hard to complain. It really is. It's really hard to complain.
I'm sitting here trying to write down grades as we go, and they're an A+ for me because George Lombard Jr. is still a Yankee. Spencer Jones is still a Yankee, right? But so are Camilo Doval, David Bednar, Jake Bird, Ryan McMahon, Ahmed Rosario, Jose Caballero. I mean, they got better everywhere except the rotation. And I think, look, if you watch the Dodgers in the postseason last year, if you're hitting well enough, you can find a way to get by without a great rotation. And I think the Yankees are kind of in a tough spot there with the Cole injury and everything else. And so I think the bet they're making is, hey, if you can roll into the playoffs with Fried, Rodon, and somebody else, maybe, right? Maybe that ends up being Luis Gil. And you have a great bullpen, and your offense is pretty well rounded out, they're in good shape. This isn't a betting show, but I bet the Yankees plus 250 to win the AL East today. They should not be that big of an underdog to do it. I still think they're better than Toronto. They're a few games back, but yeah, great day for the Yankees. Great deadline for the Yankees.
And the thing that's been killing them, Dalton, too, is their bullpen ERA has been about 6.5 for about a month. Like it's been really, really brutally bad. Devin Williams blew a save last night. They ended up winning the game, but he blew a save last night. And then they come out today. I mean, people are making the joke on Twitter now. The Yankees have as many closers as they do starting pitchers, which is kind of true with Weaver and Williams and Bednar and Doval. And they really, really went ham after the bullpen. So, yes, I agree. I'll give it an A. I think if there was a way they could have finessed the starting pitcher, I would have taken that. But let's be real. The Yankee rotation is not bad by any means. Right? Fried, Rodon, Luis Heel. I mean, you can get by with a rotation like that in the playoffs. So hopefully that's enough to get them going. Let's move to, again, we cater to our own fan bases. And the Dodgers, I think, had a bit of a light deadline, Dalton. They really did.
I mean, I think the expectation really dating back to the offseason was they did not want to have to scramble at the deadline this year. Mm-hmm. And they didn't scramble at the deadline this year. Now, should they have scrambled at the deadline this year? I mean, some people think so. I don't. I think Brock Stewart is a really solid add for them. He's having a great season for the Twins. And he is a strike throwing middle reliever, which we desperately need guys that can just do that. So I think Brock Stewart's a solid add. I would have liked to have had picked up another bullpen arm maybe. I love the Alex Call deal. You give up 0 top 15 prospects and you pick up an outfielder who you have under team control through 2029, who has been solidly above average offensively. He's not great. He's not going to hit for a ton of power, but good defender, above average offensive player, very clear upgrade over James Outman, very clear upgrade over what we've gotten from Michael Conforto this year, although he's starting to hit better. So, I mean, I'm very happy with the Alex Call pickup. It's exactly the kind of outfielder I wanted us to go get. Harrison Bader was the name that kept going through my mind. Yeah. Call, to me, kind of similar ilk. So I'm happy with that. Also, the trade the Dodgers made late last night, I have no idea how they pulled it off.
Just being part of the Zach Littell Reds trade.
Yeah, you look at it from the Dodgers' perspective. You give up Hunter Fiducia, who, look, 27-year-old or 27 or 28-year-old basically the third catcher for the Dodgers. I think he's a guy that could be a decent major leaguer somewhere. Not a high ceiling, but a decently high floor. But you already have Will Smith and Dalton Rushing in front of him. He's not going to play. And so you flip him for Rortvet, who is another guy basically of the same level. And in the deal, you pick up Adam Saranowski, who, I mean, he's thought of very highly. He instantly slots in as the Dodgers' number 3 pitching prospect for MLB Pipeline. So you get him for Fiducia, and then you pick up Jervis, who had a couple appearances for Tampa so far this year out of the bullpen. I'm guessing the thought there is just bullpen depth, right? A human being who will hopefully come in and throw some strikes for us while we try to get healthy and figure out what things are going to look like going toward October. So I think, it's not sexy, but it's solid. And you have a really talented roster that's getting healthier. Look, the reality for the Dodgers, they have the pieces they need. Guys just have to perform. Guys have to be healthy. But they have the pieces they need.
Yeah. Well, I never thought for a second that the Dodgers needed to have a crazy deadline. Like you said, I mean, the thing that they could have used was maybe some back end of the bullpen help, because guys like Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott have not been great since they've been to LA. So it's reasonable to expect maybe something of that nature. But I mean, the prices for back end relievers this year were nuts, right? Yohan Duran, what the Twins got for Yohan Duran was real solid. Like real 2 top 100 prospects for Yohan Duran. I mean, let's discuss this next, by the way. Maybe the biggest shocking trade of the day was Mason Miller to the Padres, right? Now, Mason Miller is obviously a stud. He's obviously a stud.
Right.
But the Padres of all I mean, we joke about it all the time on this show that the Padres just do the AJ Preller just does this, where they seemingly, even when they don't need to, they make a big splash for even something they don't need. They have Robert Suarez. They still, after the deadline, have Robert Suarez. And now they have Mason Miller again. And on top of all that, they gave up Leo DeVries, who's the number 3 overall prospect in the whole sport. Just beyond. So the whole Padres deadline, and they always go crazy. They bring in so many different guys. And that's not to say that they didn't become a better team today, because they did. But they gave up so much to do it, Dalton.
Yeah. So for those watching and wanting updates on what the Padres did, I'm going to read off their entire deadline. Okay. They acquired.
Yeah, get comfy.
They acquired closer Mason Miller, starter JP Sears, both from Las Vegas, Oakland, Sacramento, Yolo County, whoever. They acquired catcher Freddie Fermin from Kansas City, outfielders Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano from the Orioles, infielder Will Wagner from the Blue Jays, and left-handed pitcher Nestor Cortez. God, I want him to pitch against the Dodgers in a big spot.
I love that, by the way, and I love
they traded away major league / fringe major league players Ryan Bergert, Stephen Kolek, and Brendan Lockridge, the number 3 overall prospect in baseball in Leo DeVries, as well as this next group of names I'm going to read off are all in the Padres top 20. Braden Nett, Henry Baez, Eduardo Nunez, Boston Bateman, Cobb Hightower, Victor Figueroa, Tyson Neighbors. All of those guys started today in the Padres top 20 prospects. They also gave up Brandon Butterworth and Tanner Smith and Brandon Valenzuela. So basically, the Padres farm system is now Ethan Salas and anybody that they can find anybody who wants to go try out at their various minor league locations. To say that the Padres went all in is an understatement. Yeah. It just is. And so, yeah, look, I mean, there are kind of 2 ways you can handle this, right? It's either you're trying to build a team that can be successful and can be healthy over time, or you can operate as if you have a gun to your head that's going to get fired if you don't win the World Series. And that's how AJ Preller is operating and has operated most of the last few off seasons and deadlines. So Padres 5 years from now might be Colorado Rockies bad, but this year they are a World Series contender. I'll give them that.
They certainly are, and they have to be, right? They don't have a choice now. I mean, people are joking because and Alfred Parser Jr., my good friend, who hosts the Metropolitan Report, how about that Mets bullpen? The Mets bullpen was the best bullpen in baseball for about 12 hours until the Padres traded for Mason Miller, which I think is hilarious. But so if you were going to give, and we'll talk about the Mets in a second, but if you were going to give the Padres an overall grade, right? And this might be kind of tough because again, they sacrificed so much, but they did become a better team. They absolutely did do that. And it's funny because Dylan Cease is still there. And like I said, Robert Suarez is still there and Jeremiah Estrada is still there. Like some of the guys that they were thinking about trading are still there. So this is still a pretty good baseball team. I don't know. What would you say for a grade? I'm thinking like B-, dude.
I mean,
that's about where I'm at.
I think the answer is it's not a B, C, or D. The answer is either an A or an F, and we won't know for a few months. Yeah. That's how I look at it. Like if the Padres win the World Series this year, it's an A+, right? If they win the World Series this year, it will have been because they went all in at the deadline, and that's an A+.
Yeah.
If they do anything but win the World Series this year, it's an F. It's an F because they sold their entire future.
Leo DeVries is like I said, Mason Miller is a stud.
But he's a reliever.
He's a reliever. And
he's a reliever.
Leo DeVries is a top 3 prospect in the sport, not their system, the sport.
Yeah.
The whole that kid is a superstar. So I'm really, really stunned. Let's talk about the Mets, and then I want to talk about the Red Sox because we do have the Boston Sports Summit in the comment section here too. So let's talk about the Mets. The Mets heavily prioritized their bullpen, and they did something similar to the Padres in the sense that they gave up a lot to build up in that bullpen, but not nearly as much as what San Diego did. But walking away with Tyler Rogers, walking away with Ryan Helsley, they definitely improved in that portion, and then also pulling in Cedric Mullins from the Orioles. They now have a full-time starting center fielder, which is something they really wanted. So what do you think about what the Mets did at the deadline, Dalton?
Yeah, I mean, so I give the Mets an A. Not quite an A+, but I give them an A. Look, they picked up a very solid starting center fielder in Cedric Mullins, right? And that very much helps fill like what's kind of been a hole for them in their lineup where they needed one more guy. It felt like that's going to be a solid move for them. But what they did to their bullpen, you got to remember, they have Edwin Diaz sitting at the back of this, right?
Right. Yep.
So now in front of him, you're putting Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers, and Ryan Helsley. They can really start to shorten games now. And
on top of that, with Reed Garrett and Brooks Raley and guys like that are established bullpen guys as well.
Right. Now, I think the other side of this for the Mets, I'm going to adjust it from an A to an A-, right? Because the other sides of this for the Mets, the starting rotation is still a major concern.
I agree.
And that they are going to need some luck in the health department in their rotation if they want to win a World Series this year. And, one of the guys mentioned by, one of the commenters here, Jose Buteau, or Jose Butto, as Frank the Tank calls him, like that is not insignificant losing an arm like that, because Butto is a guy who's been a swingman for them, who can eat multiple innings, who can stop when he needs, who can start for them when they need him to.
Right.
So I think for the Mets, like if Sean Manaea is healthy through the season, right? Like if Clay Holmes can pitch well, right? If David Peterson can keep pitching the way he's been pitching, if their starting pitching is above average, they have a real chance to win a World Series with what they've built on this roster.
Certainly.
But the floor is a little bit lower than I think they would like to admit also. Because if the starting pitching falters, having a good bullpen isn't worth all that much. Mm-hmm. And run prevention could end up being a problem for this team down the line. I also felt in the Tyler Rogers deal that they gave up too much for a reliever, period. Like that was like
they gave up a lot for Tyler.
I forget that it was Drew Gilbert. I forget the other.
It was Blade Tidwell.
Tidwell. It was like several top 15 prospects. I felt like they overpaid in that deal. But look, again, we're going to talk a lot about teams that may or may not have overpaid in deals. The reality is they got better.
Yeah. No, they definitely did get better. I honestly, it's almost interesting because Tyler Rogers, they overpaid for Tyler Rogers, but I almost felt like they underpaid for Ryan Helsley. So I kind of felt like that maybe even offset itself a little bit. And that bullpen is gross. It's definitely gross. I do think that the big point in this is that the thing that is holding back the Mets from getting a stellar grade this deadline, like you said, I'm around a B+, A- for them as well, because they didn't address starting pitching. And that was like the Yankees desperately needed to address their bullpen. And I think they should have addressed their rotation too. But their rotation, I think, is better today than what the Mets have put together, right? With Fried, Rodon, whoever. The Mets have already seen, Senga's down, Canning is down. Over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a harsh regression from Clay Holmes as a starter, which, again, I told you so. As a Yankee fan, I told you so. But they desperately needed. Is Senga even coming back? I don't even. Is Senga coming back this year? I honestly don't know. I don't even remember. Yeah, maybe Alfred, if you're listening, chime that in.
I don't think he is.
Something tells me he's not either. But like they desperately need help in that rotation, and they didn't address it. And again, that might not even be entirely their fault. The price for starting pitching this year seemed to be pretty high, right? Mitch Keller didn't go anywhere. Like I said, Zach Gallen, Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera, none of these guys have they never they didn't go. So, and they were guys that Senga has been back for a couple weeks. Has he really? Has Kodai Senga been back a couple weeks?
News to me, but I haven't been following the Mets night.
Clearly we haven't. But yeah, okay. I mean, listen, if he has been back for a couple of weeks, I mean, that's a big deal for them. But at the same time, I still feel like that rotation needs a little bit of help.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I think for the Mets, it's really simple. If their starting pitching is healthy enough, they have as good a chance as anybody in baseball to win the World Series. If their starting pitching falters, I think they're like a wild card team. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where that, because the bullpen's legit, right? Like the bullpen is really legit. Them and the Padres to me are built somewhat similarly right now, where the ceiling is pretty scary. The floor is also a little bit scarier than you'd like it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Senga started on 7/27. Okay. All right. Just wanted to clear that up. I don't know why, for some reason, I thought he was still injured, but them having him healthy is a huge deal, because he's the most reliable starter on that staff when he's healthy, by far.
Oh, for sure. By
far. So if he's healthy, then that goes a long way for the Mets. Okay, so let's talk about the Red Sox, because so many Red Sox fans are pissed. They sort of did the same thing last year, where they half bought, half sold. They kind of stood pat. They didn't really do anything. And this kind of started a while ago, right? When they traded Rafi Devers, and now they go into this deadline and it's Steven Matz and Dustin May, and that's about it. Like, that's what they did at the deadline. Do you think that the Red Sox should have done more, right? There was that one little tidbit about, there was that one rumor that got posted where they seemingly almost acquired Joe Ryan, and then they pulled it back. It didn't happen. So what are we making right now of what the Red Sox have done, or lack thereof?
I mean, from a grade perspective, I'm giving them a C-.
Yeah, right.
And look, a big part of it for me is there's no way to feel good about a deadline where you give up Rafi Devers in a deal that was not earth-shattering, which it wasn't. And the biggest sign of that is the biggest piece they got back from Rafi Devers, they flipped today for Dustin May, who has been more often than not dog shit for the Dodgers this year.
Yeah.
And look, Dustin May is a really high ceiling guy, throws hard. I think a new environment could do him wonders. I legitimately think that it could work. But when you think about it just from the standpoint of the main piece you got back for Rafi Devers acquired you Dustin May, it's hard to feel good about the Rafi Devers deal. And to me, there's also, like you said, there's kind of this, are we in? Are we out? I think you got to pick a direction and go that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've done that. Mm-hmm. That being said, they're playing pretty good ball. It's not that I think that they're not a contender or they're not going to go anywhere, but they didn't really raise their ceiling today, like I think a lot of their fans wanted them to.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it just seems to be and Tim Barnard, who I love, is in the comments section saying that he can't begin to describe how much he hates the Red Sox ownership. They pushed out on the Joe Ryan deal. Joe
Ryan wasn't moving for anything but the farm. He was not going to move.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. But the point here is that listen, Boston fans are pissed. They're just pissed at how this organization has operated over the past several years. Oh, and we won 4 titles crap line from ownership. Screw that. They have more last place finishes than championships. They could go screw up. That's incredible. I love that. But listen, man, they're angry, and I think that they deserve to be for how they kind of treat this roster. It really is amazing. But there's one more comment in here that I want to touch on. Tristan Reyes, thoughts on the Shane Bieber trade. So Shane Bieber going from Cleveland to Toronto. And we talked about this, Dalton, where we thought that the Blue Jays could address their starting pitching, kind of fortify that rotation. They add Shane Bieber to that rotation. So where does that leave the Blue Jays? What do you make of that deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I want to say I think the Guardians did really well in the deal, first of all. I would think, I mean, you're picking up what's the guy's name? Cole Steven, I think is the guy's name.
Yeah, right.
He was a top 5 prospect for the Blue Jays. And he's probably a guy who's not that far from being in the bigs. So I think it's a good return when you consider the fact that Shane Bieber hasn't pitched in the majors this year. So I think the Guardians have done about as well as you can expect to in that deal. Now, right. If you ask me, they probably should have traded Shane Bieber in the offseason or last year. But I think the Guardians have done about as well as they could do given the circumstances right now. Now, from the Blue Jays perspective, everything that I'm seeing is that Bieber has looked really good in his rehab starts. The velocity's there. But you're also talking about a guy coming back from Tommy John surgery. You don't know what that's going to look like in the majors. It's high risk, high reward for Toronto. They needed to do something, though, and they did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you think they did enough? You think the Blue Jays did it? I mean, because right now they got a 4-game lead in the AL East, and that might have changed because the Yankees just won. But they got a 4-game lead coming into today in the AL East. The Yankees went ballistic today to become a better baseball team. I mean, I just kind of sense that at some point the Blue Jays are going to finally run into who they actually are. Like, did they do enough to be like actually be considered a legit contender?
I'm going to say probably not. Like, I mean, but I also didn't really go into I mean, look, the Blue Jays are in first in that division. They deserve the credit for it. But the reality is Major League Baseball right now has a ton of parity at the top.
It does.
I mean, you've got like 10 to 15 teams that are all within a few games of each other. So the Blue Jays happen to be the team that got hot recently and was near the top of that heap. Realistically, I think they're a wild card team. And I think they kind of operated at this deadline like a wild card team.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm pissed that they didn't go all in for a starter. Like, I think that they probably should have done more. But I also think that, like, realistically, this team is not as good as the Yankees roster-wise. And I don't think they're going to hold on to that division lead. After today, I'm even more sure of it. So if I'm giving the Blue Jays a grade, I'm giving them, like, a D+, maybe a C-.
Yeah. I might go a little higher. I might just say, like, again, and we're picking at straws, but maybe like a C+ or something like that. Because I like Bieber. I think he fits as far as just, entering in a playoff caliber starter in that respect. And that's something, like we said, is something they needed to address. Let's shift to what was maybe, in my mind, the second most shocking trade of the day, which was Carlos Correa going back to the Astros. That was like, I couldn't have predicted that even a little bit. Then you started kind of hearing the rumblings of, like, they're talking like it could happen, but no, nothing's close. And then you got the notifications yesterday saying, all right, those talks died on the vine. It's not happening. It just died.
Yeah, look, first of all, the Bob Nightingale notifications just have to be ignored. I mean, because that's what that was. That was a Nightingale notification. He's also the one who said that the Dodgers were going to acquire Yohan Duran, which was never going to happen. Mm-hmm. So the Bob Nightingale stuff, we got to stop reading it at all.
I gotta wonder who Nightingale's sources are, because I don't know that he just makes stuff up.
No, I think he just runs with stuff a little bit prematurely.
He might,
and gets it wrong a lot. Look, so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Twins eventually, but this Correa deal makes a lot of sense. Like with Isaac Paredes out for the season, they needed another, guy that can hit with pop in that infield, and Correa is that guy. From the Twins' perspective, it's a tough pill to swallow because you're getting a prospect of some kind back, but nobody major. And the Twins are paying 33 million of the 104 that's left, 104 million that's left on the deal. Mm-hmm. For the Twins, it's just a salary dump. And Correa has not been good this season, so it makes sense to dump that salary. Fans, especially casual fans, are going to be frustrated by it, and I understand that. But the Twins did the right thing if the goal is to run a successful, healthy organization. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, from the Astros' perspective, I think the assumption is that Correa going back to Houston is going to be in a comfort zone and is probably going to play a little bit better. We'll see if that actually happens. I think the Astros in general have had a pretty strong deadline. Like, I think Jesus Sanchez was a great get for them as well. So, I mean, look, I placed a bet today on the Astros to win the American League. I just think, like, adding Ramon Urias, Jesus Sanchez, Carlos Correa, that's a much deeper team offensively than it was. You figure at some point they're going to get Yordan Alvarez back. Mm-hmm. I think the Astros are in really good shape, and they kind of had to be aggressive because of what the Mariners are doing. So the AL West, I mean, we'll talk about the Mariners and the Rangers too, but AL West is going to be really competitive down the stretch.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit to the Twins, right? Because we just talked about Carlos Correa. So let's kind of transition that into talking about the Twins. They dumped everyone. I mean, Yohan Duran is gone. Griffin Jax goes to the Rays. Carlos Correa is out. Willie Castro is out. Harrison Bader is out. I mean, they got rid of everybody, it felt like.
Yeah, good old-fashioned fire sale, which is appropriate given how smoky the air is here right now. But, I don't even know how to grade a deadline like that. It's kind of like it's a lot easier to grade the deadlines on the teams that acquired players. A lot of it for Minnesota is going to depend on, like, hey, do these prospects turn into anything? And they acquired a couple major leaguers. I mean, they acquired Taj Bradley, they acquired James Outman. It's just going to be a very different looking team in general. So I don't know, man. If you're going to sell, you might as well sell all the way. Yeah. And the Twins are also being sold. And so it's a whole, like the entire Twins organization right now is just a big question mark.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. And given their circumstances, it made sense to sell. And boy, oh boy, did they sell.
They sold in the strongest version of the word. They definitely just offloaded everything that they could. Like I said, I'm surprised mostly by them trading Correa. I would have guessed that Duran would have gone and Griffin Jax would have gone. I obviously had like Willie Castro, I'm sure was going to go. Harrison Bader, like some of these other just vet guys that are on rental deals. Yeah. Carlos Correa, no matter how you slice it, he's 30 years old, turning 31. He's on presumably a bad contract. He has just over a 700 OPS this year. He's not having a good year. And even with that, he had become part of the core there also.
Well, but I think for the Twins, it's really as simple as this is a guy that's become a bad contract and a bad liability against the team's value in that way, right? Mm-hmm. And the Astros offered to pay 70% of what's left of his contract. Twins are just like, okay, that works.
Right.
That's really all that is. And it sucks for Twins fans who felt an attachment to Correa. I would tell Twins fans that felt an attachment to Correa to go find an attachment to somebody who didn't cheat the game a few years ago.
Okay, there you go. be blunt about that. There you go. All right, so let's shift to their in-division rival. Let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. This team can hit now. Like that lineup is pretty scary now. They add Eugenio Suarez after already adding Josh Naylor. So, all right, so now you've got, 50 home run, 55, 60 home runs a year tied up in those two spots. I mean, they really addressed that portion of their roster. They went out and they tried to go get some hitters, and they did. Where do they stand now?
I mean, I think if you're the Mariners, you're looking at this young rotation, right, of studs. And it's a little bit like when we talk about the NFL and how your best chance to win a Super Bowl is when you have a young, controllable asset at quarterback that can win you games, right? Because then you can really build around that guy and give yourself a chance to win.
Right.
That's a little bit of where the Mariners are right now with their pitching. Like, you've got this unbelievable staff of young studs that make you really confident if you can get into playoff series. Well, with this type of lineup, now you've got a chance, right? They needed to get deeper. They got significantly deeper with Naylor and Suarez. Look, you pair that with Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, Cal Raleigh, J.P. Crawford. This is not a stars and scrubs team. This is a pretty deep lineup.
It is.
And so the question always for the Mariners is, can a lineup be good at Safeco Field? Like, it's just been such a black hole for offense.
It is.
And we'll see. But I'll put it this way. If you're a Mariners fan, you can at least sleep well knowing we're going out there and trying to win. Like, we pushed our chips in, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that roster. I do. If they can find a way to sneak into the playoffs, because I don't know that they're going to win the division, but if they can sneak into the playoffs, I don't want to play the Mariners. I don't.
Yeah.
Their pitching staff is so gross, right? Gilbert and Kirby and Castillo and Brian Wu. I mean, their rotation is disgusting. And then you add, like I said, sick power to that line. I mean, two legit middle of the order bats into that lineup. I mean, both of which I think are all-star caliber bats. I mean, on top of Cal Raleigh, who might win AL MVP, right? On top of Julio Rodriguez and Arozarena and Jorge Polanco, and that's a legit offense.
Yeah.
That's a legit lineup now. And this is a total contradiction from what it was last year, where they couldn't hit at all. They literally couldn't hit. They were among the bottom, if not the bottom, in baseball in virtually every offensive category. They simply could not hit. So there's that with the Mariners. I think they did a very, very good job, put themselves in a very good position. Rangers made an interesting move, right? Merrill Kelly. Of all the teams that I could have envisioned picking up a starting pitcher and sort of going for it in that sense, Merrill Kelly was, to the Rangers was not something that I predicted, but
yeah,
okay, I guess.
I mean, I think it's a weird one for the Rangers, especially when you consider the fact that, I don't think, their starting pitching hasn't been great, but if you roll into a playoff series with DeGrom, Eovaldi, and then whoever you can get to pitch reasonably well out of Jack Leiter, Kumar Rocker, and whoever else, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a major problem. And their bullpen has been good. I mean, their bullpen's been great. So I think this is a team that needed to add offense and said, nah, let's just add more pitching.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that. I don't think, I guess the bet that they're making is that they're their bats will turn it around, right? That Josh Young relearns that he was once a top prospect, right? Like that Adolis Garcia can hit above 220, that Jock Peterson can become what he was 4 years ago. Like these are the bets that they're really making, because adding Merrill Kelly as a third starter is not an earth-shattering move. Like it's just not. Adding Danny Colom, he's been great, but like you already have a bullpen that's succeeding. So I don't know. I give the Rangers like a C. Like I guess the counter argument is they're not all the way in.
No, I mean they're not all the way in. I mean, where are they in the standings right now? So they're okay. Well, all right. So they're in. Yeah, they're tied for a wild card spot.
So they're in it. They're just, but apparently they don't think of themselves as all the way in it, which I don't know. I mean,
it's just one of those where like they don't want to sell the farm, but they want to make a move to where like if they do get in, all right, now you're rolling DeGrom, Evaldi, Merrill Kelly, like you've got a real playoff rotation there, and then if the bats turn it around, you could strike lightning in a bottle there. I mean,
I guess I think it's basically they're just saying, look, if the bats turn it around, we're formidable. If they don't, we didn't go that hard at the deadline, so we can just reload going into next year. I guess that's the how they're looking at it.
I would imagine that's probably it too.
Yeah.
So let's move to the National League, because there's one team I want to talk about first, and then there's another one that I was kind of disappointed in for the most part. But let's talk about the Phillies, because we talked about the Mets. We talked about how they improved their bullpen, but they needed to do something with their starting pitching. The Phillies were the winner of getting Yohan Duran, right? So they end up getting Duran, who seemingly was the prized reliever out of this batch of guys, except for maybe Mason Miller, based on how that whole thing unraveled. But the Phillies get Yohan Duran. They also end up getting Harrison Bader from the Twins. So the Phillies, listen, I talked about it. I should say we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we were just kind of trying to, create pairs for teams and trying to fill needs in that respect. And I thought the Phillies needed to go get a back end reliever, somebody that can legitimately close out games. And they did that. I actually am. And this is not a team that went super, super hard, but I think made smart moves in filling areas of need. I really think the Phillies did well. They were efficient, and I think they did well.
I agree. I think that they took their shots selectively and got exactly the guys they wanted. I mean, obviously, Yohan Duran has allowed one home run all year. One. And it was like last week against the Dodgers. I forget who hit it. I think it was Pajes. Maybe you hit it. But he's allowed one home run all season, 2.01 ERA, flame-throwing stuff. His entrance at Citizens Bank Park, I'm excited to see what that looks like. Very blessed that I was there for his last nighttime appearance at Target Field, so I got to watch his entry from the bullpen one last time. But, yeah, I mean, he's special. Harrison Bader is elite clubhouse presence, great defender, solid clutch hitter. I think it just leads to fewer Johan Rojas at bats, which I know Phillies fans are thrilled about.
It's true.
Look, Philly is very much getting to a point where like their World Series window is going to close within the next couple years, right?
Yeah.
They're old, especially from a position player standpoint. They're really old. So it makes sense to go out, get the high-end reliever, grab an outfielder, give yourself a chance, right? They also added David Robertson, who will be in the majors soon and has been good pretty much everywhere he's been. So, I think they've made real improvements to the bullpen. Their starting pitching is not going to be fun for a team to face in the playoffs, by the way. Like Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo is a great top four. Look, if the Phillies, if their veterans in the lineup can stay healthier than they've stayed, they're going to be a problem. They're going to be really good. I think they're right there with the Mets in the NL East, and I think they're right there to potentially represent the National League in the World Series. I mean, like part of what happened at this deadline is the Phillies, the Mets, and the Padres all got better, and the Dodgers kind of stood pat, maybe got a little bit better. So I think it's going to be a really competitive National League.
Yeah. And it already was, but now
Yeah.
I think the level of that play certainly certainly escalates. I mean, listen, Harrison Bader has almost an 800 OPS. He's going to play a lot for the Phillies.
Yeah.
He's playing a lot. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he starts in center field most days. So I think they did really, really well. A team that I'm kind of disappointed in, by the way, just as far as National League contenders, I really thought the Chicago Cubs needed to do more. I really did. And it seemed like, I mean, all the reports that came out, like they're willing to dangle Owen Casey and like that, like they were willing to move pieces around. I don't know how true that is, but they walk away with Mike Soroka and Willie Castro, and like that's it. Like that's what they did in a National League where like we said again, like the Mets did well, they improved. Okay, the Phillies did well, they improved. The Cubs, I mean, they're not even a lock to win their own division. The Brewers are coming, right? So, like, I just felt like for a team that can kind of, grab the bull by the horns a little bit, I honestly thought the Cubs needed to do more this week.
Yeah, look, from everything that we're hearing, the starting pitching market was insane. But if there was one team that needed to, reach deep into their prospect pool and make something happen for the rotation, it was the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd is a very solid 1-2 punch to start a series. But game 3, you're looking at Mike Soroka or Colin Ray or Cade Horton. And it's a tough sell, right? It's an okay starting rotation up top, but that's it. And so they're really going to be relying on their bats, which, look, it's a great lineup. Adding Willie Castro, I think, is an underrated addition. Yeah. He can play everywhere, and he hits. So I love the Willie Castro ad. I'm just not sure that that's the direction they needed to go.
Yeah.
I think they would have been better off pushing harder for Joe Ryan, even if it meant parting with Owen Casey, right? I think that's the kind of move they needed to make more than just about anybody. Look, I give the Cubs like a C-.
Yeah.
The only positive thing I can say for them is that the Brewers were even quieter at the deadline.
Yeah. Let's touch on that as well, just because, I do kind of, like I said, I think the Cubs needed to do more in their rotation, but the Brewers, the Brewers got rid of Nestor Cortez. Okay. I don't know, man. But here's the thing. Like, this is kind of what the Brewers do. The Brewers don't make these big, like, game changer type moves, and it doesn't seem to matter. Like I don't know. I'm.
Well, how many World Series have they made in the last 25 years?
I get that too. I get that portion of it too, but I don't know, man. They're a team that's playing good baseball at the moment, and I don't know. I'm intrigued that they didn't do more than what they did, but it's almost like I don't want to say that I give them like a pass or anything like that, but it's more like I'm more okay with the Brewers doing nothing than the Cubs doing nothing.
Oh man, I'm not at all. I think the Cubs did a lot more than the Brewers too. Look, Willie Castro is a good player. Mike Soroka is at least a serviceable starting pitcher.
Right. Yeah.
I get
that. Yeah.
So like I think the Cubs did something. The Brewers picked up Shelby Miller from the Diamondbacks to solve a need they didn't really have, and picked up Jordan Montgomery from the Diamondbacks, which is a lottery ticket at best, and that's it. The only other move they made was going and getting Andrew Vaughn and teaching him to not chase, which has worked wonders for him, hilariously. I guess they went and got Danny Jansen too, but catcher wasn't really an area of need.
No,
right?
You're right.
So, like, again, Milwaukee's a weird one where it's like, okay, cool. You went and got a catcher. You have William Contreras. You went and got Shelby Miller. That's fine, but you've got a great bullpen already. You are, and the part of it that's really disappointing for me with Milwaukee, and by the way, I'm giving them an F. the part of it that's so disappointing for me with Milwaukee, this rotation is obscene. Like Peralta, Priester, Quintana, Mizorowski, Woodruff, all 5 of those guys, with the way they're pitching, are guys that you feel pretty good if they start a playoff game.
Yeah, definitely.
There are not many teams in baseball that can say that. And so the fact that Milwaukee is not all the way in on Eugenio Suarez, and Milwaukee is not all the way in on even like Ryan McMahon or Willie Castro or Cedric Mullins or any of these position players that got moved, they had to be in on these guys. Like, look, this is not to disparage some of the guys they have, but like, are we really thinking that Joey Ortiz is this stud? Like, can Caleb Durbin continue to produce like this? I mean, like, can Isaac Collins continue to hit clutch homers?
Right.
I mean, maybe, but I doubt it. Think about what Eugenio Suarez would have looked like in this lineup, and think about the fact that a guy like Marcelo Zuna, right? Say what you will about him as a person, but he was available, I presume, for pretty cheap. Think about how he would have looked in that lineup potentially. I get it, he hasn't been hitting well, but you're not going to pay a ton to get him. Why not go buy that lottery ticket?
Yeah.
I think they left a ton on the table. If I'm a Brewers fan, I'm exceptionally disappointed because it feels like the young guys who are finding a way to contribute in that lineup and holding up the excellent starting pitching, it feels like those guys are not getting believed in and rewarded. And I think that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely fair. Okay. So I'm trying to think what else really happened. I mean, we covered a lot of the big stuff. Brian Hayes to the Rays to the Reds from the Pirates, that interdivision trade. That was an interesting one. Going from one third baseman who can't hit to another third baseman who can't hit, meaning from Jeimer Candelario to Brian Hayes. That was an interesting little move.
I mean, the Reds are buyers.
They're buyers.
You know, I like the Zach Littell move. They gave up a lot to do it, but they went and got Zach Littell, which, I mean,
by the way, they got Zach Littell like 2 minutes after he was done pitching against the Yankees, which was hilarious.
I mean, but let's talk about this rotation, though, because Nick Lodolo has been very good. Andrew Abbott's been very good.
Yeah.
And look, I think Littell's not a bad third option at all.
No.
You know, and I mean, between him and Brady, they've got a lot of pieces here that I think they can put together a pretty good postseason bullpen, where if Ellie De La Cruz figures it out and Brian Hayes maybe learns how to hit, I mean, it's a fun team. Like, yeah. I think they bought in a way that's responsible and in a way that you expect a 57 and 52 team to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. Just about. All right. Any other moves that stood out to you, Dalton? Or
well, I want to bounce around a little bit and just talk about a few teams that either didn't do things that they should have. Right. Like, I'm just gonna quick hit on a few here. Number one, the Orioles. Right. I thought they did a good job with O'Hearn and Laureano picking up 6 prospects from the Padres, 4 of which are on the Padres top 20.
Way to take advantage.
I haven't looked closely enough at the return from Mullins, but it made sense to trade him, and they did. They got something for Charlie Morton, which amazing, right? They got something for Gregory Soto. So I give credit to Baltimore for going out and selling and still leaving themselves in a position to be competitive for the coming years.
Yeah.
Rays doing weird Rays things, buying and selling at the same time. You just assume that it's all going to come up Rays.
Yeah. What was the move that they made? Where it wasn't Griffin Jacks.
Yeah, it was Griffin Jacks for Taj Bradley.
No, that's not the one I was talking about. That does count as like a weird Razy kind of move. But they made another one where they traded Curtis Mead for somebody, but I don't remember.
The Rays traded Curtis Mead today.
The Rays traded Curtis Mead for hold on. I'll get there. I will get there. Curtis Mead was traded for Adrian Hauser. They got Adrian Hauser. That's why. They traded Curtis Mead for Adrian Hauser. Right.
Wow. I'm surprised. I mean, I knew they had traded for Adrian Hauser, but geez.
It was Curtis Mead that went back.
He's been very highly thought of. Now, maybe they're giving up on him, but man, that's quite a return for the White Sox for Hauser.
Well, listen, it's amazing to me because like the Rays never have the same team 2 years in a row. It's like half their team gets recycled, right? Like Jake Mangum is starting in left field for them. Chandler Simpson is out there in center, and but last year it was like, and I'm making things up, but like it was Kevin Kiermaier, and like it's weird. I don't know how they do this stuff, but they do.
Yeah.
But all these guys end up being relatively serviceable, which is incredible to me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the Rays are kind of just shuffling the cards and hoping they get hot. I mean, it's a wide open AL still. Like they've gotten so cold that I don't know that they're still in it, but it's a wide open AL. So, maybe they get hot. Let's talk, Mike, we need to talk about the Tigers too.
Right.
I think I'll put it this way. There are different ways of looking at it from the Tigers' perspective. I think I was disappointed because I thought they needed to add offense.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't at all.
Yeah.
They went and got Rafael Montero, Paul Sewald, Brandon Finnegan, Cody Hoyer. Like, look, the bullpen looks really solid now, right? You added a bunch of adults to that bullpen, and I think that their bullpen is one of the best in the American League with all the pieces they added. So that's great. But they still can't hit. Again, it's a little bit like what we talked about with Milwaukee. Now, I will say Detroit made more moves than Milwaukee, so I give them some credit for that. But it's a little bit like what we talked about with Milwaukee, where it's like, hey, Bozo's pitching wasn't the issue here.
Right.
Like, you can't hit. I don't know. I'm disappointed in what the Tigers did.
Yeah, I think the Tigers could have done more. I do think that they addressed an area of need of adding some back-end bullpen guys with experience, right? Paul Sewald, I think, can obviously fill that role. Kyle Finnegan, I think, gives them a legit closer in that respect. So I do think that they made some real solid moves in the pitching department. And then just like you said, almost like warm bodies, right? Rafael Montero's a warm body. Like that's really where that goes. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that they were in on Eugenio Suarez, but they just never found a way to pull the trigger on a bat, which is surprising. I really thought that they would at least get some sort of, even just a budget bat, right? Just something in that lineup that they can play every day. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think I'm a little bit disappointed in the fact that they didn't go for more offense, but I genuinely like what they did with their bullpen. Like I actually think like those are productive moves that are going to help them in the postseason because they've definitely established an identity for themselves. We are going to be a team that tries to like keep games low, right? Like they're going to be a low scoring, rely on their pitching, really lean on their pitching with Skubal and Casey Mize. And, they're really going to try and lean on that. Also bringing in Charlie Morton, who I think is more of a depth arm than anything else, just experience in that respect. Yeah. But I think the fact, like, they're really trying to lean into their pitching, and I can respect that. But I agree with you. I think they needed to do something offensively. They just needed to have some sort of an improvement somewhere in their lineup, and they didn't do that.
Yeah. Another team in their division worth talking about, the Kansas City Royals, Mike. They're going for it. Like, there's no way around it. They're going for it. And you know what? I love what they're doing. Like, I mean, think about what they've done to their pitching staff. Like, Bailey Falter has had a very solid year for the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at Ryan Berger and Steven Kolek, who they got from San Diego, who decided to pay through the nose for Freddie Fermin. Like, those have been solid arms that are recording innings in the big leagues this year. Like, those are guys that make you deeper as a pitching staff.
Yeah.
And you think about it, like, so the Royals are not in a playoff position right now, right? They're a game under 500. But this staff is really solid.
It is.
Like, Seth Lugo and Noah Cameron have been pitching like aces. Bailey Falter's been solid. Michael Wacha's been solid. And, I mean, you figure Kolek fits in maybe somewhere in the bullpen, Bergert somewhere in the bullpen. Like, this is a deep pitching staff full of adults. And I'm trying to remember all the moves that they made, but they went out and
Randall Grichuk. Didn't they just grab Mike Yastrzemski?
Mike Yastrzemski, Randall Grichuk. Like, this team's legitimately gotten better without sacrificing much of their future. Like, this was I think the Royals had a great deadline.
Yeah. I was really interested with what they did, honestly. And I said that earlier this week too, where I was like, I was confused by their direction because it doesn't feel like the time to go for it. But I mean, they didn't have to sell, right? I mean, everybody thought Seth Lugo was going to be one of the top arms of the deadline, and they just like, no, we're going to extend him. He's great.
And look, here. I mean, we talked about it last show, so I don't want to like beat it into the ground, but like, the Tigers are not exactly running away with things right now. They're not playing very well.
No, they've been awful for a while.
And I mean, for the Royals, you're 3 games out of a wild card spot.
Right.
Like, why not? Because it's not like the Royals went out and gave away a bunch of their young studs. Like, it's not like they traded Jack Caglione for somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
They maintained their young core and got significantly better.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, man, like, if the Tigers offense doesn't turn it around, I get that they've got a bit of a cushion there, but we've seen teams blow a 9-game lead over a couple months. We've seen it happen. Yeah. And those other teams in the wild card race, I don't know, man. Like, like I mean, I'll put it this way: who are you higher on rest of season, Royals or Guardians? Royals or Guardians?
Royals, probably.
I agree. And after that, it's can they jump one of Boston, Seattle, Texas, Toronto? I wouldn't be surprised if the bottom fell out of Boston or Texas.
No, right. No, I agree.
So, I mean, look, I think the Royals are doing a really, really good job of threading the needle of making moves that help them compete now and make them better without sacrificing their future at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I listen, there's certainly something to be said about that, right? By the way, they also got Adam Frazier like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Also had him, add him to the mix as well.
Hey, a warm body that raises their offensive floor.
Well, hey, listen, that's what you said about Austin Slater, right? When the Yankees got him, he's a warm body that raises the Yankees offensive floor.
There's value.
We're going to make T-shirts out of that, I think. Warm bodies that raise your offensive floor.
Yeah. I mean, look, man, a lot of teams like baseball. One thing that we've seen the last couple of years, even with the better teams in the sport, right, is they tend to be very like stars and scrubs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think several teams made moves to address that at this deadline in ways that are going to benefit them. Mm-hmm. Like the Astros adding Jesus Sanchez deepens their lineup significantly, right? The Royals did things to deepen their lineup. The Yankees did things to deepen their lineup. Alex Call means you're getting fewer Esteury Ruiz and James Outman at bats, although James Outman's now in Minnesota. So, I mean, I think that's what a lot of these moves are like that. Harrison Bader, right? That's an offensive floor raiser. And that was kind of the theme of this deadline for me because you didn't have any whales, right? There was no Scherzer and Trey Turner trade. There was no Juan Soto or Josh Hader getting moved, right? This was a deadline of a flurry of small to medium-sized moves, with the exception. I mean, even that San Diego move to go grab Mason Miller. That's a closer who hasn't pitched a ton this year, getting overpaid for because, I mean, no disrespect to JP Sears, but like they don't want him starting a playoff game. I don't think.
No, he's they're taking a chance on a young, like if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. He's a depth starter.
Yeah.
So, okay. So so we kind of talked about it already, but if you had to single it down, okay, I'm going to ask you for a winner and a loser. Who won the deadline? Who lost the deadline?
Man, I really don't want to single it down. I want to give you a list in each category, but I'm gonna
give me three. Give me three of each. How about that?
Okay, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. Okay, deadline winners: Mets, Yankees, Phillies.
I was going to say the same thing.
I think those are the three biggest deadline winners, but I think there were some sneaky other ones. Like I think the Astros are in that category. I think the Royals were deadline winners. So that's where I'd go. I think you could make an argument the Twins are in their own special way. Deadline losers. Milwaukee is my biggest deadline loser. Couple others that I think are not getting enough shit. The Angels to me are a deadline loser. Like, I mean, get real, man. Like the story that came out where Artie Moreno was ready to be a seller and listen on guys like Taylor Ward, and then they won one game last week, and he was like, you know what, fuck it, we're going for it. Like, woof, that's not how I want my team managed. So,
hey, listen. I give the Angels a lot of credit. They took Oswald Peraza from they gave us something for Oswald Peraza. So I give them a lot of credit for going for it.
I'm sure you're grateful for that. Okay, the other big losing team at the deadline, team we haven't mentioned once this whole show, the Atlanta Braves. Like, listen, guys, you're 17 games under 500 going into August. Like, I get that you're the Braves and you're talented and you don't want to give it up, but like, you didn't really do anything at this deadline. You went out and bought a little bit. You traded for Tyler Kinley. Why? You traded for Eric Fetty. Why? Yeah. The only guy they traded away was Rafael Montero for a AA shortstop. Like, what? I don't know, man. I mean, I get that Atlanta doesn't want to go full sell because they think that they can compete next year. And I don't blame them for thinking that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you have to find a suitor for Marcell Ozuna, right? Like, you have to find suitors for Raisel Iglesias. Like, some of these guys have to go if you're Atlanta, and not trading them is just not good management.
Right. No, I agree with that 100%. And listen, if you're the Braves too, you have to think to yourself, I mean, this is 2 years in a row where we've been fairly mediocre.
Yeah.
Right. With this group of guys. And this year is worse than last year.
Significantly. Yeah.
Like, you're not getting better here. Is it time to, and we talked about this before, but is it time to just sort of like retool a little bit, right? Yeah. Get rid of some of those vets and reclaim some assets, right? And just kind of like something along those lines, just shuffle the deck a little bit more. So,
yeah, I mean, look, I think if you're the Braves, here's how I look at their roster right now. Like, you're obviously not going to do anything with Spencer Strider, right? Mm-hmm. You're obviously not going to do anything with Spencer Schwellenbach, AJ Smith-Shawver, some of these guys that are young and under team control.
Yeah.
But like, there are guys that should have moved, especially in their bullpen. Like, there's no reason to be holding on to Aaron Bummer today. There's no reason to be holding on to Raisel Iglesias today. There's no reason that you don't move maybe like a Pierce Johnson or, some of these guys who, like, Pierce Johnson's 32 years old.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, what are you holding on to there? Right. Like, Dylan Lee's been your closer. What are you holding on to there? Like, these guys are not long-term plan type guys. Right. So I think they needed to make moves there. Marcell Ozuna should not still be on this team. You have to move him. I don't know, man. I don't really get it. I think I can understand why you want to build around your core. Like you're obviously going to keep Riley, you're going to keep Olsen, you're going to keep Acuna, you're going to keep Harris, you're going to keep Albies in some cases because you've signed these guys forever and you kind of just have to eat it. Like Drake Baldwin's been a great find for them. Mm-hmm. But like, man, I don't know. If I'm a Braves fan today, I'm annoyed because it feels to me like they're an organization that just doesn't know how to sell, and so they just kind of stood there and like froze at the deadline.
Yeah, no. I mean, it definitely screams a team that just went like they were kind of indecisive, like they just didn't know what direction to go in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they got calls on guys they probably didn't want to take calls on. Right? Like they probably got calls about Ozzie Albies.
Oh, I'm sure.
They probably got calls about, I mean, I'm certain that they got calls about Austin Riley.
Yeah.
Even a third base market. Hey, listen, what's it going to take to get Austin from you? And they're going to be like, nope, click. And I'm not saying that they should entertain those calls, but what I'm saying is like, they definitely, they had some pieces to shuffle and they didn't do it. So, yeah, so it's such an interesting deadline, dude. It got wild in the last hour. Like the last hour of the deadline today between 5 and 6 was bizarre. A million moves going down.
Like I said, it lacked the huge names, but it made up for it in volume.
It was very meat and potatoes. It was very meat and potato. It was a lot of relievers. It was a lot of like fringe all-stars, and again, a lot of the starting pitchers stayed put. Like I'm genuinely surprised that Sandy Alcantara did not get traded. Honest to God. I thought he was a goner. I really did.
But like that's another team, right? The Marlins. How do you not move Sandy? How do you not move Edward Cabrera? How do you not move Anthony Bender? How do you not move? I mean, even like a Dane Myers, right? Like Marlins, another team, because those are the teams that I think don't get enough negative attention, are the ones that like stand pat when they shouldn't. Like the Marlins should be selling pieces. I get it. You're only 3 games out of 500. You're not having as bad of a year as everybody thinks, but you're 7 games out of the wild card race. You're not in it, right? They needed to sell more. Hey, Nationals, why is Josh Bell still on your roster? What are you doing?
Right.
You look around, like, by the way, the Pirates, one of the more pathetic things that I read today, they were going to non-tender Bailey Falter if they couldn't trade him. He's getting paid $2 million this year. Like I've heard enough.
Non-tender him if they didn't.
I've heard enough of this bullshit about a salary cap. Though, like that's the kind of shit we got to get out of baseball.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm just looking around. I mean, the White Sox probably should have done more. I'm glad for them they got rid of Hauser at the last minute because that was probably their most valuable piece. But you got to think they probably should have done more.
Traded Austin Slater to the Yankees, but outside of that, they really didn't do much.
Like, I mean, so by the way,
Luis Robert didn't get
traded.
How
the hell is Luis Robert still there? Like,
yeah, right.
Give it up, man. And from everything I heard, they were asking for a top 5 prospect from a team's like, guys, that's not who he is anymore. That's just not accurate.
Yeah, right. I listen, I said this as kind of like a dig at Met fans a little bit because I texted you about it. When Met fans were kind of trolling the Yankees about getting Austin Slater about, we're going to go out and get Luis Robert. Now that whole deal didn't end up happening, but I'm like, do they know that Luis Robert kind of sucks? Like his OPS is 650. Like Luis Robert is not and this is 2 years in a row, legit, where he's just not that good of a player. He had one good year, really. Like 2023, he had a very good year. 857 OPS. He had almost 40 home runs. But outside of that 1 year, he's been a very mediocre big leaguer. And he's going to turn 28 in a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean...
So he's not, like, young anymore.
That's the thing. He's not, like, he was the number 1 prospect in baseball at one point. And he was this rocket ship to the moon. And like White Sox, you got to give it up because guess what? This offseason, you're going to get even less for him than you would have at this deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I don't know. You know what? I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked that he's still with the White Sox because he's exactly the kind of player that would stay. But you know what? At least he didn't go to the Padres, right? We thought all along that he would go to the Padres. Okay. All right. I think that does it for us, right? I think we're done here.
I think we've covered just about everything.
Just about everything. What a deadline, man. What a deadline. Great to see all of this stuff happening today. It's always super, super fun from my perspective. Just seeing it from the outside. These are the days where I kind of I want to be the guy with inside sources, but I'm not. So it just makes me, yearn for that. But, all right. So if you tuned in, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, every Monday, 8:00 Eastern here on the Grid Network, it's the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast. That's Dalton Brown. I'm Mike Guido. It was great to have you here on trade deadline day. We'll see how all of this unfolds for the rest of the coming year. We'll see you next week.